Anxiety and alcohol, they go hand in hand. On one hand, alcohol does and it can help with anxiety. After all, that's one of the reasons people make a habit out of boozing. It works. What's the saying? Here's an ale for what ails ya. Propaganda derived from the alcohol industry.
Let's grab a beer.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it causes way more anxiety than it relieves. Drinking alcohol to help with your anxiety is like putting a band-aid on a broken bone. Or like Chris Rock would say, put some tussin on it.
I broke my leg, Daddy, put Robitussin on it.
A few years ago, I would very openly and honestly announce, I need a drink. This was a signal that I was stressed and ready to take the edge off. I made a habit out of doing this because it worked temporarily. If you're wanting to quit drinking, I think it's very important that you acknowledge a few things. The first is alcohol does work to solve problems. That's why you drink. You have some sort of issue and being intoxicated helps, whether it be stress, anxiety, or just general boredom. Alcohol does make you feel better. That's why you drink. Catching a buzz would calm me down, but I would often wake up in the middle of the night with worse anxiety, and the next day I would feel terrible. My heart would race, I was irritable, and oftentimes I had dark and suicidal thoughts. Now look, anxiety is a perfectly normal feeling that has helped us as humans survive and evolve to where we are now as a species, for better or worse. But when it presents often or at abnormal times, it can inhibit our ability to live a happy and normal life.
And for the man who really likes his beer, it's the big, fresh taste of Hamm's. Ham.
Now some fun facts about addiction and anxiety. Fact 1. It is estimated that 1 in 5 people who have anxiety use alcohol to cope with their symptoms. Fact 2. People who have anxiety are 3 times more likely to struggle with alcohol or substance abuse at some point in their lives. Fact 3. If you're a regular drinker, it's likely your central nervous system has gotten used to the suppressing effects of you constantly drowning your sorrows. That means if the levels of alcohol that your body's accustomed to drop, then you go into fight or flight mode, which can cause the same reaction as someone who has an anxiety disorder. Now let's move on and try to understand the science. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor or a therapist. I'm a dude with a camera and some lights who used to drink a lot. I'm a professional filmmaker, photographer, and goofball. I definitely am an addict, but I am not a scientist. These topics are research, and I do link my sources in the descriptions of these videos, but if I get anything wrong, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I know you will. I don't need to tell you that. The topics I cover, I genuinely am curious about, and I'm often learning this information for the first time and then sharing it in real time. If you're struggling, please reach out to a doctor or a therapist. The biggest mistake I made when I was trying to quit drinking was I did it alone, and I did it in silence. You've got this. Back to the video. Dipping your toes into the pool of science. There are 2 opposing neurotransmitters in our central nervous system that regulate us. The first is glutamate. In neuroscience, glutamate is the anion of glutamic acid in its role as a neurotransmitter, a chemical that nerve cells use to send signals to other cells. It is by a wide margin the most abundant excitatory neurotransmitter in the vertebrate nervous system. The next is GABA. GABA is a main inhibitor transmitter, and it's responsible for decreasing activity in the nervous system. Alcohol stimulates your GABA receptors because it binds to them very well, and this is why alcohol has a calming effect. This is something you may have noticed if you drink when you have anxiety. Your cocktail of choice actually does calm you down. You're not crazy. This does sound great, but there is a problem. Our brain is a problem-solving machine that loves balance. Our healthy, sober brain likes to balance out glutamate and GABA, so when there is a constant supply of alcohol, this tips the balance towards GABA. Our brain does 2 things to restore the balance. The first thing it does is it reduces the amount of GABA receptors on the outside of neurons. The second thing it does is it increases the amount of glutamate in the brain. With less GABA receptors, it is harder for GABA and alcohol to combine to calm us down. With less GABA, there is more glutamate, which makes us more excitable. This is why you may have woken up in the middle of the night with anxiety or panic after drinking. And here's the kicker. If you already have anxiety or you're an anxious person, these feelings of anxiety and panic will be worse after drinking. Relapse alert! Relapse alert! Relapse alert! Over time, we start to require more and more alcohol to experience the same calming effects we experienced in early drinking.
Shotgun time.
We then eventually struggle to resolve anxiety without alcohol. This is why people will often relapse and return to drinking in early sobriety, because drinking seems to be the only thing that can calm them down. But the best thing for you to do if you have anxiety is to not drink. And over time, your brain will balance out and you'll be able to regulate anxiety without booze. But it does take time. So how long exactly does it take to return to normal after we quit drinking? Honestly, it depends on so many variables and so many different factors. There are, however, some commonalities that we know about because of the magic and wonder of science. Thank you, science. One of the things that I learned about by making these videos that I was unaware of before I quit drinking is this thing called pause. It's short for post-acute withdrawal syndrome. The effects of pause can last up to years after you quit drinking. The effects of pause can sometimes be incredibly severe, and it's a huge cause of relapse. And if you want to learn more about it and see my face some more in your feed, click this video right here to learn about pause, and I'll see you again soon.